What's up, everyone? This is Yeflex, and welcome back to another Yeflex breaks down or reviews video. Again, with the title, you'll see what the name of this series I decided this series to be called in the description of the video. But today, we're going to be reviewing and breaking down the infamous song "Famous" by Archie. So this song is basically one of the songs that was taken down on Monstercat, and for those of you that haven't been a fan that long or just don't remember or don't really know much about Monstercat in general, I'll kind of give a brief kind of breakdown of kind of what happened to the song. So basically, from what I understand, Archie released the song on Monstercat, and he had a vocalist that was singing on the song. The vocalist, though, as you'll see in the song, the vocals are kind of like vocoded, and I'll kind of describe kind of what that term means later on in kind of a more simpler layman's term. But basically, there was a vocalist, and Archie didn't give him credit when he released the song and signed the song on Monstercat, because the artist didn't think that the song would be that big. So I guess the singer-songwriter didn't feel that he needed to be credited. But when this song was released back in, I think, 2012, I do remember the song because I did favorite it back in the day and then noticed it got taken down. I think this song was supposed to be part of the either 010 or 012 album. I think it's 012, but it's been so long that I can't even remember. But basically, this song, I think, hit so many views like within like the first day or two that the vocalist got a little upset and kind of wanted to change the rights to the song. But the contract pretty much stipulated, I think, for Archie that, you know, there was no vocalist. So I think the vocalist couldn't work it out with Monstercat, and eventually the vocalist tried to sue Monstercat, and unfortunately I think that led to Monstercat not releasing music or accepting music from Archie, because it could have been a legal issue. I don't know. Within this video, I believe in the comment section there are some people that described and kind of go into more depth on what the actual situation was at the time this song released, because I actually do remember this song being released on Monstercat. I had no clue why this song was taken down. I really liked this song. If this song was still on Monstercat, this would still be one of my favorite house songs to date. But unfortunately, that legal issue happened, and it's not in Monstercat's discography anymore. But I still kind of consider it a Monstercat song. I mean, I remember listening to it. I remember seeing it on Monstercat. And that's how I became a fan of Archie. And it's kind of sad that Archie couldn't release more music on Monstercat. As great of an artist as he is, I mean, he's now Archie, who also made a alias named Deso, which I used in many mixes. But under his alias Archie, like, he has some really solid songs. Like, there's some really good songs that I think at the time could really fit on Monstercat and really brought the progressive house songs up a notch on Monstercat, because like Archie created like some notable songs that I might even review in the future. So it's just kind of sad that, you know, that legal issue happened with Archie, but there's not much you can do now. It's kind of in the past. But I was gonna say that if this song did release, I believe on either 010 or 012, the compilation album it was supposed to, it probably would have beat out all the other house songs for me at the time on that album. And if it was 012, there's some really good songs in terms of house songs on that album, like Heartbeat and No One by Project 46. No One is by Project 46 and Heartbeat's by Vice Tone, in case you guys don't know that. And a Hellberg and Two Thirds collab. But if this song was right up there on that album, I think this song would have been up there among the favorites, if not my favorite. But that's kind of the breakdown of what happened to this song. basically this song is a progressive house song, so the structure is very similar to a lot of other progressive house songs. There's kind of a minute intro, then it breaks down, and then there's kind of a breakdown, then a build up, a drop, and then kind of a mid break, and then a build up to the second drop, and then an outro, which is usually another minute long. So now we'll kind of go into the song. The thing I like about this song that kind of differs from a lot of other Monstercat songs in this day and age, I think this song maybe came out, it says 2014 here, but I think this is like a re-release. I think it came out in like 2012. No, not 2012, at least 2013. Like maybe beginning like January or February 2013. I think that's when 012 was possibly coming out. But this song was a little bit ahead of its time because it uses like vocoded vocals, and basically vocoded vocals is like regular person's vocals just with processing. So basically it sounds kind of like a robot, kind of like Daft Punk. You hear that a lot in disco music per se, so let's just get the video started. So you have the famous vocals coming up. They're just slowly going up in volume range. And then you had the kind of simple intro, and then now you have the kind of a bigger kick coming in 15 seconds. It's cool. You have a dun 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 dun, like a kind of like a little melody kind of going on. As you know, the kick and percussion are going on, and the vocals are kind of volume automating up. So now it kind of goes into kind of the build up before the kind of drop into the breakdown for the intro. This is a pretty common technique used in a lot of house songs. Sometimes they do just the kick all the way through and then just stop. This one actually has a kind of a build up into the kind of first break before the build up into the first drop. So each song differs, but the structure is pretty similar. Not sure if you guys heard, there was kind of like a riser going, ooh, kind of building that tension, and then you see how it just kind of stops and then goes into kind of the break section. You'll hear that. So as you can hear, the vocals are pretty like robotic sounding. That's kind of what you would use a vocoder for, or what they also call like a talk box. And it basically, you talk into it, or you use vocals, and then it processes it to sound kind of like a robot. In this time period of house music, you did not hear vocals like this. Now, you know, artists like Haywire use vocoders, and more artists use vocoders, and I think the house song on Monstercat, for those of you that aren't familiar, more recently, Ghost in the Machine by Trivecta uses vocoded vocals, and you kind of hear it more now, just kind of like in more pop culture music. I think Bruno Mars used it a little bit more, like in 24 Karat. I mean, that song's kind of old, but like The Weeknd, I think, has used it a little bit in his more recent, like maybe like Blinding Lights, but I know Daft Punk has used it in like Starboy and stuff. But in terms of house music, other than like, I guess, Daft Punk or more traditional progressive house, you don't really hear vocoded vocals. This was one of the first times I ever heard it, and I don't know, for me it just gives a nice vibe to this section, because you hear the percussions going, kind of like the kind of like a 1 2 3 kind of kick beat, kind of like a doom doom psh, boom boom psh beat like that, and it's kind of like a nice break, it kind of gives a good flow, and overall it just has like a cool feeling and flow. Also, there is kind of like a dun, 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 like kind of like a arpish, leadish in the background. It's kind of mechanical sounding, which is kind of playing into the theme of the vocoder vocals, very kind of mechanical sounding, robotic sounding. So it's pretty interesting. There also is another sound that's like, it's kind of like another, almost like an ARP sound in the background as well, with that kind of arpeggiated lead as well. There's like two sounds going on with the vocals, and then the percussion with the sub going up and down, and the kick playing like a softer, almost acoustic type kick. So pretty interesting. And now it goes into the breakdown. Pretty cool, kind of like the Vice Tone song. The vocals, like, it's just, they take Famous and then they kind of repeat and loop it again, and then you notice that the lead is kind of coming back in, so the lead is slowly coming back, kind of being introduced. So it's not like when the lead does come in or the drop happens, like it's not like so sudden where you're just like, whoa, what happened? Like, you kind of ease your way kind of into it, so when you hear it, you're kind of, your ears and your mind are already kind of used to it already. So it's just kind of a cool thing to point out. You hear that riser, you hear that building the tension as well, and then I think there's going to be a tom that hits and then it drops. So in this drop, this is the more traditional progressive house where you have a lot of sidechain. And what sidechain is when the kick happens, at least back in this time, there was, you use like a compressor, and like when the kick plays, it triggers the compressor to kind of duck the rest of the sounds for a short time, so you kind of feel the kick more when the song's playing. It's really hard to hear, but you, like, when it's really exaggerated, you kind of hear a wah 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 kind of effect with the bass line. You hear it kind of here. The bass line's really good. The lead sound kind of like super saws. That could have been made in Massive, or that could have just been made with another, synthesizer that you can, manipulate sound with sine waves and stuff like that, with different waveforms. But it sounds like saw waves playing with the bass line. And then I like the snare kind of transitions, like doo bah, and it just kind of transitions there and keeps going. I don't know if you guys hear that winding sound, like kind of in between, in the drop, kind of, I guess, at the end of the measures. Just kind of a subtle sound effect that I heard. Personally for me, I really like the bass line of the song and the lead. The lead's pretty catchy too. So, but I never really noticed that winding sound until now, which is kind of interesting. So that's also probably another reason why I like this song. So. You kind of hear that riser, that kind of note riser, kind of ooh, doot, 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 doot. Almost like the riser's pretty much either going up in notes or is being pitched up, and just like by each, I want to say each beat, like oop, boop, 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 just like slowly going up to build the tension. That's a really nice transition, kind of a more, reminds me of a more classical kind of rock transition. Interesting here, there's like a percussion instrument I didn't notice in the beginning. It's like I don't know if that was an instrument used in the beginning. It doesn't really sound like it is. But yeah, you notice like now there's kind of the build up, and you notice the vocals in the song are pretty much in the build section, so they're not like reintroduced in the drop. Like they're only in the intro, kind of looped as a vocal chop, repeated and famous, and then the whole vocal phrases are like in the breaks. So, and the percussion is more like an acoustic, more traditional. It sounds like a more traditional drum kit, almost like a more acoustic kick and stuff. It's not like a hard electronic kick. It's pretty interesting because the ARP that's playing is almost like the same type of structure as the lead synth that plays in the drop, but it's just kind of like more staccato, and it's in different note formation, like maybe like 8 notes or something, but a little more arpeggiated, but it's kind of in the same key and kind of the same structure as the lead. So it's very interesting hearing that now. So it kind of reinforces the fact that like it kind of plays kind of over and over and you don't notice it, but your brain kind of knows like, okay, that is the sound like that will be playing throughout the song. So So again, this is kind of the same build as the last time, but you hear that kind of a different sound. It's almost like that ARP lead, but it's like just 2 notes, like boom, like going up and down, like just kind of building up, and then you'll hear the kind of riser building up and go into the build up and drop into the, yeah. But I just want to point out that sound and just kind of the structure, and now how the vocal chop is repeated and looped again for the word famous, which is the name of the song. What's interesting is you kind of hear kind of the noise in that do kind of in the background. I don't remember hearing that noise in the first drop. I could have not just been paying attention, but I don't remember hearing that sound in the first drop, which isn't a bad sound. It just kind of adds more flow and momentum because it kind of is kind of more of a constant sound, so you don't really notice it, but like kind of gives it a little more movement in the song. So you notice in the drop that I didn't notice earlier is that at the end of each phrase it kind of pauses, the kick stops, kind of like some of the other songs. I think like the Longest Road remix, like the kick kind of stops, gives it a little breath of air, and then keeps going at the end of each phrase. And I noticed that that do sound, I remember hearing it towards the end of the first drop, but I noticed like in the beginning of the second drop it's kind of slower, and then right now it's a little more prevalent, and it sounds like it's going a little faster, or it's a little more frequent. So, and then it will eventually be pitched up. So yeah. Kind of a more typical outro. You hear kind of the lead playing and then some synth playing, and then it kind of just slowly decreases in sounds, synths playing as it transitions, and then it would just be the kick and the snare and the percussion until just the song ends, or you volume fade it out. So So it was a pretty cool ending, has the riser. Some of the sounds kind of fade out, as you notice, and then it kind of ends the and then the kind of like a sub drop of some sorts. That's a pretty typical progressive house structure. A minute intro, minute outro at the very end, and then so intro, break, drop, break, build up, drop, outro. So basically intro, first break, build, drop, break, second build up, second drop, outro. That's usually the standard structure for most songs. You notice that a lot. Like before I started making music, I actually did a lot of mixing, and when you mix songs together you kind of start to notice the structure, especially with house songs. They're either gonna have a 30-second outro or a minute outro, so they normally don't deviate that much unless they just start right on the beat of one and they don't have an intro at all. Then it gets a little tricky, but you can always usually depend on the structure to really be there for you. When you're mixing like a house song or electro house song, drum and bass has a little bit of a structure too. The beat is a little bit different, but you can pretty much find the structure because most songs usually kind of are structured in a certain way because that's what most people know and is the most traditional way to make music. But overall, that is the song Famous by Archie, as you can see here. I will say the song doesn't shatter any records for, you know, being a progressive house song. For the most part, the song kind of entails what the stereotypical progressive house song is, but it's just the fact that the vocals were vocoded that to me it stood out a little bit more, especially for this time period when no other house song did that and had vocals quite like that. So it kind of was ahead of its time. Unfortunately, you know, it didn't get on Monstercat and didn't get all the views that I think this song deserves, but overall it's really a great song. Archie himself has really big songs, and this definitely is a favorite of mine. When I go to look back and listen to progressive house songs, like, I go back to this song and listen to it for reference and just spacing and transitioning and just how much sidechain to use and what kind of sounds to use and structure and all that. So overall, the effects of the song were awesome. The structure was a little stereotypical. The sounds used were kind of stereotypical for the time that progressive house was made, but it makes sense for the era. And overall, I mean, I really still like the song. Really do wish the song made it onto Monstercat, but there's really not much you can do now. And yeah, that's kind of like old news now. So if you guys like this style of video, please leave a comment, like the video also, that would help, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. But please leave a comment, that would always help. And I know in the past videos I said that you guys can look up this video in case the song and the audio quality wasn't that great, you know, listening along in this video, but I actually will link this song and all the songs that I listen to on YouTube down in the description or down in the comment section. But as well, if you don't feel like clicking it through there, you can always look it up on YouTube. As I said before, all these songs are on YouTube, so feel free to look around, and I hope you guys enjoy the song. Also check out the Flex's favorites mix. These songs might be in there as well. I have so many songs on that playlist that, I mean, there are quite a few to look through. So anyways, hope you guys like the video, and that's it for me. Have a good one. Peace.